If you've been wondering what's next, what if the problem isn't you? What if it's where you're trying to figure it out? I didn't realize that for a very long time. In my home, I get so focused on my to-do list, it's hard to imagine anything new, let alone figure out what I'm going to be doing in my next chapter. Then one day I came here. It was just an errand, returning a book, but something much more interesting happened. I suddenly realized that sometimes you need the right place and maybe even the right time of day to get far enough away from your current life to imagine what your next chapter could be. When I walked into the library, a calmness came over me. Now, I love libraries and bookshops, but what struck me immediately as I walked into this building is that this wasn't just built as a place to read. It was built as a place to think, to imagine, to expand what felt possible, and maybe even dream. And that is what happened to me. Suddenly, something that was just an errand on my to-do list became much more. We are at the Boston Public Library, the second oldest library in the United States. The first was a tiny one, somewhere, I think, in New Hampshire. Just a short walk from my home. I walk past this building all the time, and I don't really look at it. How many of us do that? This library, though, wasn't just a place for books. It was built as a beautiful space, and I've learned that beauty isn't just something to admire. Beauty changes how you think. When you surround yourself with beauty and quiet, you begin to hear yourself differently. And the perfect place to do that is in a library as lovely as this. But it can be anywhere that is beautiful, a church, a neighborhood, even a garden, just not your own garden, or you'll suddenly find yourself weeding. Let's step into Bates Hall. Bates Hall is a historic site which is named after Joshua Bates, one of the original benefactors of this library. Bates's life was changed by a mentor who gave him access to his own private library. And that access to books is what changed Bates' life. In those days, we have to remember, libraries, in the United States anyways, were all private. Bates had become a very wealthy man, and he funded the library so that all people, regardless of income, demographics, whatever it was, could have access to dreams in a beautiful space, just as he did. On a side note, the long tables and the bookshelves you see are the originals. I suddenly realized while sitting in that space that when I'm planning something, writing these YouTube episodes or Substack articles, or even designing my home spaces, some environments will squash dreaming, while other places like this library expand my creativity. But why is that? Well, at home, we are in the middle of noise. Those commitments, those emails, the housekeeping, family needs. Even if you live alone, there are home projects everywhere to distract you. The result is that your imagination, your dream center, gets turned off. It becomes all about doing, not dreaming. You cannot imagine a really big, fantastic next chapter if you're answering emails, waiting for the plumber, or making dinner. Just not possible. So if you find yourself struggling to figure out what's next for you, post-retirement, post-kids leaving home, post a divorce, or even the passing of your spouse, try changing up where you go to think about what's next. Not to escape your life, but to actually hear yourself inside of it. When you step outside of your everyday life, something opens up. I promise you, you will be surprised at how big that next chapter might be if you let yourself dream. I talk about this in chapter 1 of my book. How, if you want to design an amazing next chapter, you have to first let yourself dream big. And to do that, I believe we have to physically leave our own homes. For most of us, what we do instead is try to imagine what our lives could be like while still standing inside the constraints of our current life. To get bigger and even wider, you have to get out of the reality of the present and ask, what would I love to have or do in this next chapter of my life? What did I dream of doing when I was a young girl? Now, not everyone has a library as grand as this one, but every library is filled with stories, lives that have been lived, chapters that have been written, some imagined, some very real. But here's the part I think we often forget. You might come to a library to read the stories of the lives of others, but you could also be here to write the story of your next chapter. Not the life you've already lived, but the life you still have in front of you. At the front facade of this library, you see this inscription, "Free to all." How beautiful is that? And it got me thinking, what if we approached our next chapters the same way? What if we were free from all the limitations that we've been carrying, free from the shoulds, free from the fears that we hold on to, How could our ideas suddenly open up and expand if we were free of them? What would you want more of? What has been sitting on the shelf, in your closet, the journal of your dreams that you now have the time to explore? So try to find a space that opens you up, a place that's quiet, that asks nothing of you, because I promise you, it's in that kind of space that something will start to shift. Not because you figured it all out. This is a journey, right? But because you've finally given yourself the room to ask better questions, to see more possibilities, and to dream. So ask yourself, what is the story of you now? And what is it that you want to write into your next chapter? And if this gave you a moment that you're suddenly thinking about your next chapter, that's what this channel is all about. And if you want more of this kind of space to really reflect, come over and join me on Substack. Every Thursday I put out something called Letters from Sharri. It's free. And inside of Substack is what's called the Salon, which is the paid Substack version where we go even deeper together. It's a community. I call it a table of conversation. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. Share where you plan to go to dream about your next chapter. Take care, everyone. A biento.